The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to the Fine to Fab Show with Lisa Lieberman-Wang, helping women reclaim their inner peace and power, going from feeling fine to being fab, fabulous, awesome, beautiful, serving to empower you to break through the barriers that weigh you down, to live an authentic life that is healthy, happy, and free. Now, here's Lisa.
Hello there, I'm Lisa Lieberman-Wang, your trusted guide on your journey from feeling fine to being fab. The Fine to Fab show is committed to helping women break through the barriers to live an even more authentic life that's healthy, happy, and free. And I'm happy you're here to be part of this phenomenal movement. I want to introduce an incredible guest, but before I do, I want you to remember that you can join our community by just texting the keyword Fine to Fab to 90210 and hitting send. Remember to follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Lisa Lieberman-Wang, and check out our website at findtofab.com. Know that we are doing a live show here, so if you'd like to chat with our special guest, it's going to be Lisa Lockwood. I'll introduce her in a moment. You can call in live at 561-422-4365. Make sure you mute and we'll acknowledge you when you're there, or you can Skype in at W4WN Radio. You know, looking at me now, you'd never know I had countless hospitalizations, eating disorders, depression, therapy, medical challenges, and everything else, and spent an enormous amount of money looking for the age-old question of what's wrong with me. It was really about reinventing myself, and that's what I did over 20 plus years ago. So it makes so much sense that we have the special honor to have this incredible guest with us. Her name is Lisa Lockwood. She's a reinvention expert. It just sounds phenomenal, doesn't it? She's an author of The Undercover Angel, From Beauty Squat to SWAT Team. She's a co-author of the award-winning Heart of a Military Woman, which is a compilation of stories by and for about military women, and author of Reinventing You. The 10 Best Ways to Launch Your Dream Career is also a speaker, a media personality, a collegiate educator and business consultant. She's an authority on reinvention, teaches people quickly and easily how to make successful career transformations to fulfill their personal dreams. And Lisa is a living testament of that being a possibility as you'll learn her story and what she's done. Millions of people have seen Lisa on ABC, NBC, Fox News, CNN, and CNBC. Lisa's expertise has been featured on Donnie Douche, Nancy Grace, Jane Velez Mitchell, and Steve Harvey, and over 300 radio interviews. She's been profiled in Forbes.com, More.com, Chicago Sun News, Chicago Tribune, Red Eye, and today's Chicago Women Magazine. And today she's on the Fine to Fab show. So Lisa, are you here with us?
I am. Thank you, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here with you. And that was a mouthful, huh?
That absolutely was. And I know it doesn't even touch the iceberg of what really is underneath and all the other phenomenal things you've done and you're going to share with us today. So it's a good start.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited, first of all, to be able to meet you and to know your story and how you've been helping women for over 30 years, which makes you about 35, right?
Absolutely. Right out of the womb, almost.
So I just welcome and I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity to speak with you and to share some of the things that I've learned over the years and my personal experiences. But one of the things that I want to tell people is, I'm not a superhero. I'm not one of those people that, yeah, she's had some accomplishments, but it's not, sharing those is not meant to be an intimidation factor or to make me unrelatable. It's just simply, I have a story. I've done some things in my life. I love to help people is the bottom line. And yes, some accolades came along the way, and everybody can have those accolades too, I believe, as long as you get on track with what your purpose is. So it's as simple as that. So, you could say TV, radio, etc. That's just part of building credibility, but I just want people to know I would be doing this even if it hadn't been recognized in any of those medias, because I get to do what I love now, as you do too.
Absolutely. And making a difference is so important today. And there's so many people out there that are living in an old story of playing the victim or thinking they still are one, even when they might not be in those same situations. So, Lisa, why don't we just get right to it, and let's give our listeners a little bit of an idea of where you came from, about your background, some of the challenges you had to deal with and overcome, because a reinvention expert doesn't happen unless you had to reinvent yourself.
Exactly, and over and over and over again. And we all have done it. And sometimes we reinvent because we feel we have to. And sometimes we do it because we want to. So it's either cause or effect of your environment. And my reinventions, a lot of them started because I felt that I had to. I grew up as a welfare kid, 7 children in my family, a father who believed in corporal punishment. So all of us were beat almost every weekend for over a 2-year period, I remember, from when I was 9 to about 11 years old. So, disciplining the old school way with beatings and, with an electrical cord, with a stick, what have you. So that was part of my growing up. In a lot of ways, I thought that was normal with 7 kids. We were beaten. It was across the board. But then later I realized that, nobody really deserves to have their somebody else's hand laid on them for any reason. Nothing constitutes a spanking or a beating. What I have learned later on in life. So what seems to be your normal at one time, when you get better, when you get more information in your life, you realize that no, that's not acceptable behavior. But what happens a lot of times is you look at that as acceptable. So then later down the road, you start to attract things in your life that are similar to that. And I know you can relate, Lisa.
Absolutely. It comes in a different form.
All different forms for everybody. And it's based on the experiences that you have in your youth, in your formidable years, and that sort of thing. So imagine, 1 of 7 children, like I said, on welfare, public aid, going to public schools. 3 of my sisters ended up becoming teenage mothers. 5 of my siblings were high school dropouts, 5 out of 7. So I was the kid who was the introvert, the academic, who would read books in a closet. And I really look at that as the saving grace that put me on a different path than my siblings. Knowing that there's a better world out there, knowing that I had potential, knowing that doing well academically was kind of my ticket to doing better and knowing better. So that's why I'm a huge, huge fan and supporter of literacy with children, especially in communities where you have impoverished areas and zones and a lot of gangs. And why is this happening? Just because they don't know better. They're taught by parents. My parents were high school dropouts. So they did the best that they could as far as education, but it wasn't that important to them. So if a kid dropped out, it was like, okay, so you should get a job now. So anyway, I did end up graduating, and I worked a full-time job in high school my last 2 years, part-time junior year, full-time my senior year, just to put myself through a Catholic education. So when it was time to graduate, I'm like, now what? My friends are going off to college. I certainly wasn't in a position where I can afford it. I was working as a waitress. And summer of high school graduation, without me knowing, my mother entered me in the Miss Illinois USA pageant. Now imagine, I'm on welfare until 18 years old, working as a waitress, have no opportunity really except for a local community college, and here I'm going to compete in a pageant. I was exciting, I was excited, and I thought, how am I going to pull this off? These girls are well-groomed, they've been competing in pageants forever. I couldn't afford a dress, I couldn't even afford the introductory rate to get in to compete in the hotel room. There was so much, but my mom's like, you need to do this. What if you win? It'll pay for your college. We did the best that we could. We rallied up support in the neighborhood and the local newspaper and ended up getting some local area supporters who would pay for the entrance fee, for the dress, for the swimsuit, etc. But even when I got there, I realized I was still out of my element. Who was I? I was a high school graduate working as a waitress. Is that really the formula of what it takes to become a Miss Illinois USA pageant winner? So I did the best that I could, and I ended up placing 25th out of 205 girls, just on learning as I go. And the principle that I used was the act as if principle, acting as if I fit in the environment, pretending as if I did have the experience. I didn't even know how to walk a runway, no modeling training whatsoever. But fortunately for me, my roommate, the 3 days for the pageant experience, was the former Miss Teen Illinois. And she asked me, she goes, oh, what other pageants have you been in, Lisa? And I said, oh, this is the first. Really? So where did you learn how to walk a runway? Well, I didn't. She took me in the hallway and she started to show me how to do it. So she was a real Miss Congeniality. She ended up placing second in the pageant, first runner-up, and just a great, great girl. But what I learned from this is that I still took action in spite of knowing that I didn't have all the skills. I wasn't really equipped. I wasn't, the model person of what a pageant contestant would be, because I didn't have the grooming, welfare till 18 and that sort of thing. But Acting As If taught me that, hey, 25 out of 205 girls with no experience, that kind of built my self-esteem in a sense. You see where I'm coming from?
Absolutely.
So it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a choice for me to be in that pageant. My mother entered me without telling me. So was a reinvention for me in one area. But now here I was, still working as a waitress and figuring out, what am I going to do to go to college? I went to community college. I was taking buses. And finally I realized, well, if I join the military will pay for a full 4-year program, because they have what's called the GI Bill. There was the Veterans Grant. And to me, it was worth it. I mean, I had nieces and nephews at home. Our home was busting out at the seams, and I just knew that I needed to get away and to get focused. And for me, education was my ticket out of that kind of a lifestyle. So I joined the United States Air Force.
Well, now the funny thing about that is that joining the Air Force, there's opportunities of you being in danger and being hurt and everything else. But obviously, from where you were to where you wanted to go, that risk wasn't as big.
True, and I would blame some of that on just being naive, because here I was a young girl. I didn't know much about politics. I just earned the right to vote. And I really that just wasn't my realm. So I never thought that, the potential of a war and putting my life, it just wasn't even on my radar. So my mom said to me, "You did what? You joined the military? You did what? Are you kidding me? Do you know you can go to war? Do you know that you have to learn how to shoot a gun? You know you could be killed?" I had a protective Italian mom, and I said, "Well, Ma, we haven't been in a war in a long time. We'll be fine." So I enlisted in 1989. 1990, Desert Storm broke out.
Oh my God.
So much for that. Mom is right sometimes.
Oh my God.
So there I was overseas. I spent 90 days in Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Cleanup. I wasn't there for actual wartime. I was stateside, but I was overseas for that period, and it was still volatile. I was in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. My MOS, what I did was a heavy equipment operator, so I drove tractor trailers, unloading cargo. In Saudi, even though they were our allies, it still wasn't permissible in Muslim culture for women to drive. So being on Saudi roads as a driver in a tractor trailer, I had Saudis cutting me off, even though we were their allies. So it still posed a lot of danger. And then when I did end up leaving the military, about 2 years later, they blew up the base that I lived on in peacetime. So you you just don't know. And I feel very fortunate. But why did I join the military? And I said before, we reinvent for 2 reasons: out of cause, because we want to, or effective our environment. And joining the military was not something that I said, oh, I want to do this because I love the military and I want to become a lifer, and I just, I'm all about the cause and et cetera. It was a means to an end. But what that taught me very early on is to be accountable for everything that I did in my life. It taught me about patriotism. It taught me about having more of a respect for America. And personally accountable is the biggest thing. And if I had my wish, Lisa, I'll tell you right now, I would wish that every high school graduate would go through a 6-week boot camp, just a boot camp, just to learn about being accountable and not playing the victim card. Because everybody was an equal. Didn't matter what your status was, where you came from. With the drill instructors, training instructors, you were all equal. There was nobody was special, nobody was unique, nobody stood out for any particular reason. You all got in trouble uniformly, and that was it. So it taught me to become humble, and it taught me to be accountable and not play a victim card ever again in my life. So that was a huge win for me.
And going back even before you made that decision, you said it's either cause or effect. And obviously, you said it was a means to the end, and that was you're taking the education route. Seeing the direction that your siblings went versus where you went, what was going through your head as a young adult saying you wanted to be different or you didn't want to take that route because it would have been easier just to follow suit?
Yeah, it would have been. And I'm often posed that exact question, Lisa, because so why was it different for you? You were raised in the same environment with the same parents. All of your siblings were together. So what was so unique? And I bring it back to education. I realized that education was going to open doors for me. I realized that my self-esteem was a little bit higher than my siblings who were struggling in school. So having some self-esteem in one area of your life and kind of hanging my hat on that, where mom was proud and mom was telling people Lisa's all A's and Lisa's honorable and Lisa's this and that, where my siblings were kind of getting the negative attention from mom, I became kind of like the child who was the revered child. So what did I want to do? I wanted that behavior to be reinforced. So I continued to do well in school and to get educated and say, I'm going to be the first person to go to college amongst my siblings. And then I made that happen. So it was that mindset coupled with having a little bit of self-esteem, even though we were ostracized in our neighborhood for being on welfare, food stamps, thrift store clothing, shopping at Aldi on the regular, that sort of thing. There was a lot of ostracizing with that. And I think the shame for me had gotten so large that it compelled me to say, I will do this at all costs.
So that would be at the point of this is no return and you've had enough. Now, a lot of people get to the point where there's shame and the victim and they stay there. And you say education, but is the education the fact that mom was praising you, that you were able to do well, or was it stuff that you were putting in your head during that education that made that discerning factor?
Well, imagine that you do something well as a kid. Like you think about the kids on American Idol, where you could see them with the microphone at 2, and parents are saying they always wanted to sing. They always, it was in their blood, etc. Well, I was the kid who was the fast learner. So I guess there was a part of me who enjoyed education. So reading as soon as possible, being able to recite things back, having a great retention. So having that and enjoying it, and instead of watching TV, I was the one who would go into the corner and have privacy and be the introvert and read the book. And not because it was reinforced at that time, just because that was something I enjoyed. So it was a combination of I'm doing something that I'm already enjoying, and now I'm getting rewarded for it. So that behavior was reinforced, and then I just continued and continued and continued.
Now, and it was reinforced a lot by your mom as well, but being that victim of domestic abuse, and a lot of it, like you said, with your dad feeling the need to physically abuse your siblings as well as you, how is your relationship with him today, and how was it then?
And I have an amazing relationship with my dad today. And what a lot of people didn't realize, and my siblings didn't realize at that time, is that my father was severely, severely abused by his father. And, the things that I had heard finally when I got him to open up to me when I was 18 years old, I finally got to hear the whole backstory with Dad. And what bonded us was when I was training and learning everything that I needed to prepare for the military exam, that I started to ask him questions, because there were a whole kind of mechanical questions. And I knew nothing about mechanics and the inner workings of a car engine and that sort of thing. So I would say, Dad, can you help me? And my dad's esteem obviously was built when he thought, wow, I could teach her something. I already have an intelligent kid, but now she's coming to me and I'm a resource for her. So I would imagine that built his self-esteem and allowed him to open up to me when we had one-on-one daughter time. So yes, I had forgiven him, and especially after learning, with abuse, there are two things that happen. If you're abused, you either do better because you know better, or you do the same, or you do less than what occurred to you. So he did less than what occurred to him. So his abuse was extremely severe, similar to a child called It, I would say. And then he did less than what happened to him, but still felt that he needed to have corporal punishment incorporated into his life. So to this day, I have a phenomenal relationship with my dad because I have the human psychology and understanding of where he was. And I have another sibling to this day who won't forgive him, who is really caught up in her own story and playing the victim. So everybody can go a different route. When you know better, you do better. And even with me attempting interventions with her to try to make her understand his path, she says, well, you know what? I was beat by him and I don't beat my kids. So, and I said, and you know what? You took it a step further. You did better because you know better. So.
Right. And I have a similar story because I used to call my dad, not in front of him, obviously, I was afraid of him. My dad was verbally abusive and we'd get kicked or hit, but it wasn't quite the same as what you've shared with me privately. Yes. And what was interesting about it is I had such animosity towards him for so many years because I felt like he didn't love me and he didn't let me do anything, wouldn't let me date, would come down and greet a date with a gun, literally a gun, Lisa, try to scare him off. he did, would come out looking for me. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I had to turn the story around, and I had a conversation with my dad only about 5 years ago. And so you had it a lot earlier than I did. And my dad would said to me, he goes, Lisa, there was no books on how to be a great parent. And I looked at it and I heard what he said, and I realized, my grandmother came from Russia and was there during the war. She said she didn't walk until she was 9. She spent most of the time under the bed hiding. And, he was an afterlife baby, and they didn't want another child 18, 15 years apart, from when they had their first 2 boys. So he didn't have the best childhood. I don't even know that he had one. And he just did what he knew. And it was really an offshoot of what he grew up with. Sure.
And that's common. And that's extremely, extremely common to repeat certain behaviors. I've done a lot of having fast forwarding to becoming a police officer and working with a lot of criminals and getting confessions and learning the backstory, because I just love personal development psychology so much that I love to know and inquire, how did you get here? Okay. So, you did this criminal act, but what's the backstory that put you in this position to be here right now, arrested in front of me? And when you start to understand where people are coming from and what got them there, it makes sense. It all makes sense. Where people are addicted to drugs, people start to burglarize or rape, and etc. Where did that come from? What is the root? What behavior can be treated? What behavior can absolutely not be treated? And one of the things I learned when I started working undercover to catch sex predators on the internet, posing as a 14-year-old girl, if anything I've learned is that sex predators who have a desire for children cannot be rehabilitated. So that's one of those situations where they need to be put away in jail and the key needs to be thrown away, because their attraction toward children is similar to that of your attraction toward the male species. Why is a lesbian attracted to another woman? The attraction is there. It's something that they cannot explain, and they just love that, and the priests and the little boys, and, some of them go into that industry specifically because they know that they'll have access to young kids. Soccer coaches, they know they're going to have access to young kids because their sexual desire is toward those, and it cannot be rehabilitated.
Well, that's pretty scary, Lisa.
Yeah, it is.
It is really scary, because now all of a sudden it's like to go on guard all the time. You don't even know what you think would be safe if it is. And like you said, if they're not put away, it becomes something that can be repeated.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. And then it comes down to education. It comes down to internet safety with children. There are internet safety courses where children, they need to have chat rooms blocked. They need to make sure that they're not putting explicit photos of themselves on Facebook. Parents have to be hyper vigilant on watching what their children are doing, limiting computers and phones and access to internet in bedrooms at night past 8 p.m., really making children understand the dangers that are out there and exposing them to that in order to keep them safe. Listen, I'm a regular correspondent and media personality on Nancy Grace, which talks about, murders, missing children, Jane Velez Mitchell, the same thing. And over again, you keep hearing these cases and kidnappings and why is it happening, and sex predators hanging at parks, and now the new park is online. So with all of that information out there, parents just need to be completely aware and do their job to protect their children in the internet world now.
And Lisa, we didn't talk about the fact that you did go into the area with security and became even a member of the SWAT team and doing all the other stuff. So I know that one of the books, Undercover Angel, do you want to talk more about that and share? Because like anything else, we watch a lot of movies, we see things on TV, and I think sometimes we think it's our imagination, but it's not real. And I know you've had true experience.
Yeah. So in the military, and toward the end of the military, I was engaged young. I was engaged at 18. I ended up marrying a man at 19. He was about 5 years older than I was. Fell in love with him. Now imagine there were 6 girls in my family. So we talk about the psychological factors in life. I was looking for somebody who would be that father figure, who would be that source of love for me. So I fell into the arms of a man who later turned out to be an alcoholic. Was he an alcoholic the entire time? Absolutely. Was I aware of it? No. because at that age, that's what people are doing. You're 18, 19, 20, you're going out to clubs, you're drinking. So that's normal. So you don't look at somebody as an alcoholic because of all that partying. But later on, only did I realize that he was emotionally abusive in the beginning. He had issues with me succeeding in the military and me going to school, and he tried to repress that. Oh, you only make X amount of dollars in the military, and I'm a construction foreman, and I make all this money. So he wasn't my cheerleader anymore. It was his fear of him losing me. So instead of cajoling me and being the cheerleader in the support system, it was I wasn't good enough. So initially he wooed, because there's the wooing period where these kind of men will, do everything, all stops with gifts, with showering with affection, with being possessive. And you look at possessiveness as an attribute in the beginning. Your self-esteem is built that you think you're so great and put on a pedestal, but only later on do you realize that these are manipulation tools, and those tools are used against you later down the road. So imagine I'm succeeding in the Air Force. I became Airman of the Year Air Force-wide for my base, Air Force-wide, and all these great accolades and ribbons, and the list goes on. But my personal life was suffering, and nobody knew that. And I was ashamed to let people know the way he treated me behind closed doors. So after I left the military, I immediately enrolled in school because that was the reason I went in, to get a 4-year college education. I worked private security at the same time, and I just kind of repressed my poor marriage by filling my schedule with school and with a full-time job. And the whole time just pulled more and more away from my husband at the time emotionally. He was threatening, we're going to have kids this year, et cetera. And I knew 100% that I would never have children with him, that I just wanted to have the strength to leave him and get on my own 2 feet to do that, to be able to support myself. He often said, if you leave me, I'll kill you, or I'll kill the next man in your life, or I would kill myself, all different times, depending on the situation, that he loved me so much, et cetera. And I really believe that, because in the beginning, with his emotional abuse, became these very aggressive tirades where he would destroy our home. He would throw furniture over, he would break glasses, dishes, throw tables over, never touch me. And I always looked at it as, well, he doesn't touch me, so it's okay. Until I became a 911 dispatcher and still going to school, and he came home one evening drunk, insisted on me waking up to have dinner with him, and I was on midnight shift. And when I didn't have dinner with him, he basically poured scalding hot Chinese food on my back. So that was the first time that he did something to me physically. I didn't report it, didn't go to the police, and ended up going that work that night as a 911 dispatcher, whose job was to help people who were just in a situation that I was in, and I didn't report it. But I knew at that point, it was a point of no return. I said, well, I've got to protect my family, I need to protect myself. If he is this volatile, let me figure this out. And my means was to become a police officer. So once I become a police officer, I know that intellectually my self-esteem will build higher, and I'll have the backing and the physical strength to do it, as well as being armed. So true to my word, I did. I became a police officer, and I filed for divorce shortly after I graduated from the police academy.
It's almost as if you needed to set yourself up to protect yourself. So, and that goes to, even if we're looking at the pattern, and you're not the only one that does this, where we go to what's familiar, where you went from physical abuse from growing up to then maybe verbal abuse, and then it became physical again, and you start saying it's enough. And we all get to the point where we say it's enough. And some people have a higher threshold than others. So what happened after that?
So I ended up filing for divorce, and ironically, he was devastated by all of it. But what I did initially, and I said, let's get counseling. So I did that because I knew how volatile he was, and I wanted to make him actually believe that I was going to stay if we just got counseling. So we did that for a little bit, and the counselor's taking your side, and all that kind of crazy stuff that goes with it. And ultimately, I said I want a divorce, and I said, you know what? I want you happy. I want you to be happy, and I want you to be able to have children and have somebody that's going to treat you well, etc. So what I did is I kind of told him that he deserved it, and I just stroked his ego as much as I could, and I ended up living with him for 3 months during the divorce, cohabitating in another room while my new condo was being built, my new townhouse. So it ended up being amicable in the end, fortunately for me.
And that's very fortunate, because I've been in situations with clients where they were in very abusive situations and they needed to get away. But that hold of going back or thinking, oh, he's better now, it's going to be okay, or making it justifications like you shared. Well, at least he's not physically abusing me until that day happened, and who wants to be in that situation?
Yes, exactly. So, and I would never recommend my path for anybody. The second you're abused, I would say get out and get to safety. I would never tell people to do what I did. So don't repeat that behavior, especially as a police officer. I learned as a police officer, when people threat, a lot of times they go through with it. Believe me, I've seen it. I've seen people killed in domestic violence situations, and jealousy and rage, and alcohol's involved in drugs. So it worked out okay for me, but I'm not an advocate for people taking the route I did.
Well, Lisa, we're actually going to go to a commercial and then we're going to come back. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to talk more about even recognizing these behaviors, but things that you can do personally, like maybe giving some tips for what they can do personally to remove themselves, or maybe feeling stuck, and some of the things that you are so proficient and incredible at in teaching, and how to reinvent yourself in situations when you feel stuck. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here we'll go to break and we'll be right back.
If you've always wanted someone to connect with on your path to a happy, healthy you, I've got great news. In her #1 best-selling book, Find to Fab, 7 Secrets of a Successful Woman's Journey Away from Depression, Disordered Eating, and Self-Sabotage, Lisa Lieberman-Wang shares how you can experience your breakthrough just as she did. Start living an authentic life without blame, shame, or years of therapy. Buy now at findtofab.com.
Feeling tired and achy? Frustrated with allergies? Stress causing you high blood pressure? If you're ready to feel better, have more energy, maintain healthy cholesterol levels, joint flexibility and circulation, looking to reduce inflammation, support healthy glucose levels and sinus relief, plus so much more, Isotonics OPC3 is a food supplement made from a combination of bilberry, grapeseed, red wine, and pine bark extracts, and citrus extract bioflavonoids, all found to be powerful antioxidants. Oligomeric proanthocyanins, OPCs, are bioflavonoids found in fruit, vegetables, and certain tree barks that provide exceptional nutritional benefits to the human body. Studies have shown OPCs to be up to 20 times more powerful than vitamin C and 50 times more powerful than vitamin E in neutralizing free radicals. Isotonics is delivered in an isotonic solution, which means that the body has less work to do in obtaining maximum absorption, as you can drink your vitamins. No pills, binders, or fillers. Buy now at www.amillionproducts.com. Isotonics OPC3.
Now that I have your attention, ladies, when you need help breaking through the barriers that weigh you down, turning to food is not going to help, and starving yourself along with ongoing feelings of helplessness and frustration will not help either. The cycle of self-sabotage, disordered eating, and stinkin' thinking has to stop, and there is no better way than with other smart, business-savvy women like you who are making the change with best-selling author, licensed master NLP practitioner, and trusted guide, Lisa Lieberman-Wang of Find2Fab.com. Lisa will help you get that breakthrough you've been waiting for. Go to Find2Fabshow.com right now for all the details of the life-changing 10-week transformational program and the special listeners promotion. It's time to turn your life from feeling fine to being fab. Fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Go to Find2Fabshow.com now.
Welcome back, and I am excited to have our special guest, Lisa Lockwood, with me, and we're talking about reinventing yourself. She is a reinvention expert, as seen all over. You can find her on ABC, NBC, Fox. She's been everywhere, but right now here, and I'm excited to talk more, Lisa, about how we go about situations. We've been talking about everything from physical, domestic abuse, psychological abuse, being stuck where people won't move and stay into situations that don't serve them. So I think what would be great is for us to start giving resources and some skills that can be a great go-to. I know we have a lot of listeners that are in situations where they just don't know how to get out, or education alone won't be the answer. They need more tools. So why don't you give us some of them?
And a lot of times the reason that people don't know how to get out is because they don't have a vision of where they want to go, right? So when you think about when people set goals, they're not looking at the picture far ahead of them. And what is the reason for that? Because they're so caught in their now and in their present moment. It's, let me just get through this day. Let me just get through another day. Let me just do this. You know what? They're looking at the immediacy of the moment, and because the focus is so hyper focused in that moment, they can't see beyond the potential of what can come. You know, I know that sounds like a lot of the psychobabble, but the bottom line is this. And here's some of the things that have helped me over time. And you'll be able to find these on my website too. So just due to the amount of time that we have, I set up these 6 kind of action items and things that have helped me. And they're also in my new book, Reinventing You. Be willing to take uncalculated risks. And what does that look like, an uncalculated risk? When I entered the Miss Illinois USA pageant, knowing that I was on welfare and I was a waitress, I still did it. I took action in spite of not being equipped to do it. Be willing to do that because the rewards will be so great. What was my reward? My self-esteem was built a little bit more, and I ended up doing well. The next tip is to say yes before your brain tells you no. And it's similar to uncalculated risk. When I said yes to the military, now here I was a high school graduate who loved acting and I loved drama, and my big dream was to go to Hollywood and maybe be in soap operas. I loved General Hospital at the time, but I had an opportunity to go to college, and military, a lot of people wouldn't take that route, but I'm very thankful that I did because it taught me personal accountability. It taught me not to be a victim, and it instilled some incredible values in my life. The next is the act as if principle. I acted as if so many times, actually adopting somebody else's confidence, adopting somebody else's character. I heard of a story of a woman who went to an auction where they were selling Oprah's clothes. There was a pair of shoes there that she bought that were too big, because I think Oprah is like a size 11, and this one is a size 9. But what she did is she bought Oprah's shoes, took them home. When she became discouraged about a situation in her life, she stood inside Oprah's big shoes and adopted the Oprah power, so to speak. So she used that in that moment to say, I'm Oprah, and what would Oprah do? Acting as if principle. Find out who your model is, your role model, people you revere, who are your mentors, what would they do, and act as if you're that person. The next tip is go against the current. Going against the current. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, I told you I was a police officer. I was also an undercover detective. I worked undercover as a narcotic detective. I posed as a 14-year-old girl to catch pedophiles. The list went on and on. But now a position for the SWAT team had opened up, and there were no women on the SWAT team. So I didn't look at that as a barrier. I went and looked at the general order, and I said, there's nothing in here saying a woman can't be on the SWAT team. So I went for it. And let me tell you, Lisa, I put up with a lot of ridicule along that way. But I still did it, and I became the first woman on the SWAT team. Be willing to go against the current. In the situation you are in your life, do something different and outside the box. Next tip is called become thick-skinned. And basically it's not believing, not caring, having such a sense of purpose in yourself and in your life that you don't care what other people's opinions are of you. I had to deal with a lot of discrimination as a police officer in the military, the only female in my squadron. Now I'm on an elite part of the SWAT team where police officers question, can she do the job? Is she physically strong enough? If there's a situation, there's a shootout, is she going to have my back? All of those things. And I didn't permit any of their opinions to affect me. It's not easy, trust me. We're always looking and seeking for other people's guidance, or what's their opinion, or what do you think, and should I do this, etc. But you have to really stand within your own self and say, your opinion does not affect me. I'm still going to go forward and do what I love. And the next and final one is to live extreme. And living extreme, what does that look like? It's different for everybody. And you know that, Lisa. Some of the experiences that you've had in your life are extreme for you because it's the first time you've ever done it. Now, I'm an adventure junkie. You know, I'm a little bit different than most people. I love, the fire walker, the fire eater, the scuba diver, the SWAT team member, the firearms expert, the marathon runner. The list goes on. I like extreme. I like adventure. I love those things. But it's different for everybody. When I work with my coaching clients, I find out what their extreme is, and I encourage them and cajole them to do something outside of their own comfort zone. I'm not telling everybody to jump out of airplanes. I'm telling you to do something that's a little bit more than you would unordinarily do for you, because your path is no less than my path or anybody else's. For some people, it's speaking on stages. Now, Lisa, you've spoken on stages in front of thousands and tens of thousands of people. And for other people, they're like, no way, I'd rather be in the casket than the person speaking on stage. For you, it's second nature. Speaking on stage is your backyard. For other people, it's something different. Having a one-on-one could be hard for some people because they're introverts. I figure out ways to help people with that. So living extreme, when I say that, don't get caught up with the extreme. Just what is extreme and different for you.
That's incredible. And, every one of them, when you think about it, it really goes out to taking it to a level of uncertainty and moving out of the comfort zone. And that's really cool because, a lot of times we just go back to what we know, and because of it, we stay stuck. And this just gives a great outlook on how to do that. Lisa, just to make sure, we're going to, at the very end, give people the website address, but make sure we give it to them right now so they can reference these 6 steps.
LisaLockwood.com. I wanted to make it simple across the board, and all my social media is just straight up Lisa Lockwood. So LisaLockwood.com.
Okay, and we'll make sure that address is as well on the website on findtofab.com with the show when later on gets archived, so they'll be able to find it and be able to go back and reference that. Lisa, what is the hardest thing people have, do? Like when you're going through this and you're coaching with your clients, what's the hardest thing they have to get over that you see?
I would say a lot of times people forget some of the wins they've had in their life, or they downplay some of their successes. Like, oh, big deal. I was on the phone with a client last night who had incredible training in his life and certifications, but he's doing something that's not in that career field anymore, so he discounted that. And I said, are you kidding me? I'm like, the accolades, what you have here is media will just eat you up and love you and love your story. He's like, well, I don't know why I do that. Well, a lot of times, even with men, they're alpha males. It's, okay, I achieved a goal. Now what's next? Now what's next? Now what's next? Versus looking at, wow, look at this accomplishment. Yes, I've done this, and now I get to apply it, and I get to use it, and I get to help people, because that's where the juice of life is. So I would say that a lot of times people forget some of their accomplishments, and I like to remind them and get them back there into a state that's so uber empowering that they're ready to take another step in their lives.
That's awesome. I always like to say that we all need raving fans. So
yeah. We
all need a raving. We do, absolutely, because a lot of times we do that, and not just the alpha males, the women that are wearing masculine masks do the same thing. I can attest that I was one of them. I mean, it was never enough. No matter how successful I was, I needed more, and it was always compared to what, and the compared to what was my own past.
Right.
So, and how often, I know I'm not terminally unique, that how often people go through that, where it's always what's next, and not even to be able to celebrate what's now, and to be like human beings, to be present. So
yeah, so who are your raving fans? Where are they? Everybody listening right now, who are the people that support you? Who are the people that believe in you? Get more of those people in your life, Wayne Dyer said, love your family, choose your friends, okay? Love your family, choose your friends, meaning you get to choose who you spend time with. You can love your family from afar if they don't share your values, okay? It's not your job to change them and make them what you want, but you certainly are in a position where you can choose who your peer group is. You can choose who your significant other is. You can choose who your colleagues are. The list goes on and on. You could choose where you're going to grow yourself, educate yourself. Surround yourself with those kind of people who become your raving fans, exactly like you said, because they're the people who are going to bring you up. They believe in you. They believe in your path, and they're going to support you along the way. And you need to do the same for them. Reciprocate that action.
And Lisa, when you just said something, it just made me think, it triggered something for me with the quote, love your family, choose your friends. A lot of people have a hard time, and I'm generalizing, disassociating with those that aren't serving them, aren't supporting them, aren't seeing things the way they want it to be, and they want to keep them stuck. So let's talk just a moment on how what they can do to be able to disassociate themselves from those situations.
Right. So imagine, I'll use this as the example. My mother, who said, Lisa, I don't want you to join the military. You may have to go to war and you may get killed. Well, you know what, Mom, I love you, but this is a little bit more important to me. And I really did. I never wanted to break my mom's heart, and I always tried to do the best. Next thing you know, I'm going for the SWAT team. Mom, Why are you doing this, Lisa? Do you know that you're going to get killed? Do you know that you could blah, blah, blah? The list went on. Well, the reason I'm doing it, Mom, is because I believe in the mission of the SWAT team. I know I'm equipped to handle it. I'm going to have the most elite training, et cetera, et cetera. So I was able to combat that based on the knowledge that I had. So people, they're just so tied to the opinion of their family, their significant other. Don't do this. Imagine you're juiced, you're excited, you go to a seminar, you want to go home and take action, and all of a sudden the bubbles burst when people say, oh, I can't believe you paid that much for a seminar. Oh, there was nothing wrong with you. That's BS. And oh, blah, blah, blah. And they bring you back into the dirty fish tank, and it happens over and over and over again because they want to pull you back. These are the people that are not encouraging your growth. They're not the raving fans. Why? Because they love you so much, they want you to stay with them. And they know the more that you grow, you're going to pull away. So I do a method with people to slowly delete people from your life. So you say you've got this person who is the energy store, the energy drain, the person who's the energy vampire, all those things. So now what I want you to do is go find somebody that's going to be the incredible raving fan. Incorporate that person in your life, and you're going to see yourself spending less time with the energy drain, more time with that person, and then find yourself another supportive character. And as you build those supportive characters, you're pulling yourself into that environment more and more, where you see yourself depleting time spent with the people who are not your advocates and not looking out for your best interest.
That's awesome. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier too, is when people take something off the plate, you need to put something back on. And whether it be people, whether it be food, whether it be alcohol or abuse or other things, we need to find something that's more empowering, that's going to help pull us towards something versus away. And that is, I love it. In the dirty fish tank, I have a huge visual. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't be clean when you're thrown back in that dirty fish tank. You get out, you're clean for a little while, and then boop, back into that same tank again, and you're going to get filled up with algae and everything else. So, and the whole reason I did Reinventing You, the 10 Best Ways to Launch Your Dream Career, is because I realized that I had some great careers, and I did great in those careers, but most of them were because of the effect of my environment. Why did I become a police officer? I was an abusive man. I felt it'd be more empowering. Was it my dream to be a cop? Absolutely not. But I did get the best out of that environment. People who are transitioning right now, I never tell people, jump ship, leave your job right now and do that. It's okay to gradually get into doing something that you love until you're able to monetize it. And that's what Reinventing You is about. Helping people figuring out how to monetize their passion. There's always going to be factors and surprises that take people away from their goals and dreams. Always. How do you deal with that? Because it's about you getting on track, doing what you love, and finding a way to make money doing it. And I just love nothing more than helping people with that.
Lisa, would you share how you do that? Do you deliver it through private or through groups? And also any information you'd like to share at this time as we close up so that people can find out more about you, where to get your books and everything else?
Well, I'm offering now because I'm in the pre-sale stage. So LisaLockwood.com, you can get an autographed copy from me within the next month because it's not officially available until January. So LisaLockwood.com. I speak around the country, and as I said, I do media. I'll be on a media tour starting in January as well. But how do I help people specifically with that is I work with them individually. I love one-on-one time because that gives people an opportunity to feel safe. That gives them an idea of how I work with them. And I also offer ways to do that. If you go to LisaLockwood.biz, that's kind of the easy, quick and dirty, economical way to get exposed to me with a 30-minute consultation. So you get your feet wet and you decide, you know what, I like what Lisa has to offer. I think that we are in rapport with each other and we can move forward to try to get my dream realized. And then I have obviously packages after that, 6-week and 12-week programs to get you where you need to go. So in essence, LisaLockwood.com, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those things. And I would love to connect with your incredible audience.
Okay, outstanding. So, Lisa, I want to thank you for being here and for giving us your wisdom and your time. And there's been so many incredible pearls, whether it be us going from cause or effect or there's 6 steps and tips that we have. I think the one thing that is a big takeaway, even for me, is seeing that, reinvention starts at all different stages. And it doesn't have to be such a big thing as, changing career or divorcing or changing life, or reinvention can be anything for somebody, to the point of I'm not where I want to be, to let's just change it.
Yeah,
and
it's part of our evolution. So That's why I want people to realize that you're doing it, but now let's be in a position of controlling it. You're doing it because you want to, not because you have to.
Right. And I think a lot of times most people are living with what they know, thinking they don't have options. So giving them some of these tools gives them options as well that they can apply immediately to see change. And that excites me because I'm all about wanting to see results now, right now. Always about wanting results. Absolutely. And here's the best thing that I want to put out too, and we're going to be closing in a moment, is just like our meeting, Lisa, if it wasn't putting it out there, even as I did, it's always about the intention and knowing that you want something more, sharing that. And so often we keep things internal. We don't even let anybody know. And it's that moment, as you just said, creating supportive characters, that you put it out, it gets easier. And I just want to go into that for one moment because people think, well, I don't know anybody, because most of the sphere of influence are negative and that's why they stay there. But it's when you have even the intention of wanting more is when it gets attracted. And yes. I hate when they say that's the secret and all the other stuff, because so many people just think it, but they don't do it. Intention also can come with action.
Exactly.
Do something, and you'll start seeing change in your life. And it could be small. It doesn't have to be big. Just the difference of saying no when you need to or saying yes when you can. That can be the big difference. So, Lisa, again, thank you so much for being here. And I'm so blessed in having you.
Thank you so much. It was great sharing with you today. And, I absolutely love your story and your path. And you're one of those people who has been speaking for so long. You found what you love and you found your calling. And I tell people, you know what, it's great that there are people out there that are like that. And then there are people who get tired after 6 years, 8 years. I'm ready for something different. That's okay. So go ahead and do that. Reinvent. I had an aunt that became a nurse, went to nursing school at 50. The list goes on and on. So just embrace it.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, everyone. Remember, you're fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Have an outstanding day. Love you. Well, until next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll talk to you live then.
Tell me if this sounds like you. You're a woman, you're successful, but aren't quite comfortable with yourself. Perhaps you struggle with depression, eating disorders, or some form of self-sabotage. You've tried diets and programs, self-help, psychiatrists, even Overeaters Anonymous, and you're still looking for the answer. Well, get your answer today. Go to findtofabshow.com. That's FINETOFAB show.com.
When I see